Hey y'all, this is Kristen from Weird Reddit, where we take a deep dive into glitches in the Matrix and the paranormal. I truly hope that you guys are enjoying these videos I produce on the channel. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. Every like, comment, share, and subscribe I get on the channel truly warms my heart. I ask that you please continue to show support, and if you are new to here, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, please help our channel reach out to 1,000 subscribers. I hope you enjoyed today's videos, and remember, don't forget to slap that notification button. Hey guys, Kristen here. Our next story is by Gunter Sway. It's a story from 7 years ago from Reddit. It's one of the spooky paranormal stories. Let's get started. My aunt's house is haunted. She moved there when my cousin was about 2. She knew it was haunted instantly, but stayed because the ghosts weren't malicious. My cousin is now about 30, grew up there knowing it was haunted, as well as my 2 younger cousins. They talked about it so nonchalant, like it was part of their daily routine. I'm way into spooky stuff, so hearing this time and again at family functions, I asked to spend the night specifically to listen for ghosts. I was about 17 at the time. Here's exactly what happened that night. That was strange. My cousin, my aunt, and my aunt's friends are watching Carrie. It's winter time, and all week their fireplace was not working. My cousin says out loud, "When's this movie gonna get scary?" Just then, the glass patio door in the kitchen opens. After the movie, we go to the hot tub because we were cold. After a while in there, we come back inside, and the fireplace is blasting full heat out of it. My aunt laughs it off as the ghosts are messing with us. They play pranks like this a lot, apparently. After everyone is asleep, I'm on the couch and my cousin's on the floor next to me, and I hear from the basement footsteps coming up the stairs. The basement door is visible from where I'm laying. I hear steps come all the way up the stairs and stop at the top. I'm terrified and I expect someone to come out the door, but nothing happens. A moment passes and then steps go back downstairs. This starts to repeat up and down the stairs. I'm losing my shit here. I wake up. My cousin's terrified. I say, listen. It's crystal clear. A person walking up and down the stairs right there. He looks at me and's like, dude, that happens every night. Go back to sleep. It went on for about 30 minutes, up and down the stairs. I was mortified. I have more stories from my aunt, but that was one of the experiences I had. I have also had other occasions. I've seen lights turn on and off and heard more steps. She thinks it's children. They live across the street from the school. So that also has a little theme to it. People started reporting strange activity around the school. I hope you enjoyed that last story, guys. Our next story is from UrgeHow666. Spooky name. This is also from 7 years ago on Reddit, so I hope you enjoy this spooky tale. When I was in high school, my uncle would throw me a couple of bucks to help babysit kids with my aunt. They lived in a 2-story house by the water. Nice area. The kids were about 3 and 6 respectively. One day I was sitting in their den on my phone and I started hearing a baby cry. Thinking it was the 3-year-old, I headed to the bottom of the stairs to check and see if my aunt was up there dealing with it. I called for her a couple of times with no response. The baby kept crying. I called her one more time, and when I got no response, I started walking up the stairs. Then I heard my cousins and aunt playing outside. All the hairs on my body stood up at once, and I literally felt a chill run down my spine. I quietly turned around, walked down the stairs, got in my car, and drove away. The baby was still crying when I closed the door behind me. A few years later, I was drunk at the family party and told my uncle the story. He told me that he and his wife used to hear a baby too. And apparently the previous owners had a kid die of SID in that room upstairs. He's an uber Catholic and has had a mass said for the baby. He said after that, it never happened again. Still gives me the willies when I talk about it though. Ooh, imagine that. You're going upstairs, you're helping your aunt with a baby, and you find out that there is no baby, just a 3 and a 6-year-old, and everybody's outside. Yeah, that's pretty spooky, isn't it? So one commenter says, I got in my car and drove away. Kind of laughed at that. I would have done the same. I don't blame him. And another kind of commenter says, kind of reminds me of the stories of Ted Bundy using a recording of a crying baby to lure people out their houses. Ooh, that's creepy. Really? Next commenter. Flock of Seagulls 25. The other ones were deleted. Really? Maybe I'm cold-blooded then, because loud influence usually drive me away from their source. Oh, we have a childless person, but that's okay. You're free to be childless or child with. I don't know what the opposite would be called. Prisoners of war? Maybe. I don't know. I feel like a prisoner of war sometimes with my kids. That's just me. He played the record inside the house to scare them out. No one would suspect Ted Bundy outside of their house because they were thinking about demon babies in their house. Commenter replying to the last commenter. So let's wait until the next story, guys. Hold on to those horses. I'll be back. Our next story comes from Trigger1154. Reposting once again. I am an outdoorsman and I'm very experienced in hunting, camping, hiking, and general survival. I'm very familiar and used to wildlife. And I was charged by what I believe was a cryptid called a dog man. It charged me and my cousin, and it was not a bear. A bear cannot move how it did, and I would not say that it was a normal wolf, as they can comfortably run on 2 legs, whereas what charged to us seemed to be naturally doing. I can elaborate further if you wish. Oh my god, this thing was walking on 2 legs. It's Dogman! It's Dogman! This happened around June or July of 2007, guys. I was around 17 years old and more cocky then, but still somewhat knowledgeable of the outdoors. My family used to own a cabin in northwest Wisconsin. I basically grew up there in the summer. I knew the woods well, but at night it was wise to stay in the cabin or at least by a bonfire by the beach because of bears, wolves, and cougars. Not the female kinds. One of the creepiest things was we were having a bonfire. The tree line was visible from the fire pit and beach. And at night, you always felt like you were being watched from the tree line. But during the day, the woods would always seem normal, not so creepy. That is until this incident. So this happened somewhere between 1200 and 1400 hours. I'm guessing they're going with military time. So 1200, 14 hours. You guys can calculate that for me. Me and my cousin were having an airsoft battle. I was in full woodland camo. He was not. I retreated onto the ATV trail into the woods for a tactical advantage, and our battle took us about 200 meters about into a third way up the trail. We had enough at this point, and we were standing at the edge of the clearing on the trail talking, and he was maybe 10 feet from me when I decided to mess with him. I shushed him and said, "We're being watched." He froze. Then I realized the woods were dead quiet, and I got spooked and started screaming and scanning the tree line and the other edge of the clearing from the left to right. When I saw it, its teeth gave it away. It was panting and staring at my cousin. I don't expect you to believe me, but what I saw was a wolf as big as a black bear, at least 300 pounds, but it wasn't normal. This wolf was on 2 legs, crouching next to the tree with its arms grasping the tree, grasping with clawed hands. It had reddish brown fur. I told my cousin that we have to go. And the next thing I know, he's sprinting, and I look back at the wolfie who had locked on and sprinted a few steps, 2 feet. And then I turned and ran. When I looked like Wolfie was dropping to all fours, it charged at us and sounded right on our asses barreling through the bush. But for whatever reason, let us go when we broke out of the tree line and headed for the cabin. What stuck with me the most was the sheer size. Wolfie appeared to be nearly 7 feet tall when upright. And that's where it should have had front paws. It appeared to have large clawed hands. Now, I'm not sure how to explain it out away rationally. I have heard of wolves will occasionally kind of walk upright, but as far as I know, they can't sprint on 2 legs. Nor do wolves get that big, and black bears more waddle on 2 legs. The closest description is silly, a werewolf or a dogman. Thank you for reading. And in the bottom of the page, he says that this happened in Danbury, Wisconsin. He gave the coordinates, but they're pretty long to read, so that's our story. So let's look at some of the comments. Still Your Sweet Roll says, holy crap, I've read stories about this. Maybe it could have even been a skinwalker, but a dogman fits this quite well. Comment 2. It could have been a diseased bear that was losing its hair. That's why its paws seem more hand-like because of the hair loss. And most of the comments are deleted. Okay, there we go. Here we go, another one. Here's a reply from Trigger1154. Also, they generally are more violent and don't leave many survivors, whereas this thing let us go. I personally believe I was defending its perceived territory. It was defending its perceived territory, and once we were no longer a threat, it didn't care about us. I honestly feel it wasn't even malicious at first. More curious than anything. Then my cousin running triggered its predator instincts. Yeah, I don't know what I would have done in that. I think I would have ran too, and I don't think it would have been nice. And commenter says, I agree with you on that. It was a territory, and this is what he's agreeing with. What I'm thinking is that if you would have went any closer to its territory without knowing, you might not be here today. Stay safe, bro. Yeah, stay safe, because you really did almost lose your life here. It's pretty cool, but let's see if there's any more replies. I learned of this after my encounter, says OP. I believe the Wisconsin werewolf and the Michigan dogman are one and the same. Well, he's now a believer. A commenter says, fuck that, never going near Petsuki again. I hope I pronounced that right. So guys, what do you think? Was it Dogman? Was it a bear that was sickly? Or was it something else? Spooky. Our next story is coming from Chop Salad 32. My fiance and I used to live in a pretty old building. It was super old. An apartment building, and it had one of those vibes, you know? It was just creepy all around. Here are some pictures. I don't see any pictures, guys. The apartment was tiny, and all the people that lived there were super strange. There isn't much setup to the story besides that. We had a few other tales, but this one takes the cake. We always sleep with our bedroom door closed, no matter what. It was a normal week that night, and we were getting ready for bed. Got super cozy and left the door open so the air would flow better, even though it was a tiny space with a window unit in both rooms. I felt like I woke up, and shortly after I realized I was having some kind of lucid dream, I started looking around the room to see something as I'm scanning. The ceiling was recessed a little higher. In the excuse for the hallway, we had that right outside our bedroom door. It looked like a black figure was like hanging from the top right corner in the hallway, just suspended, completely black. It freaked me the frick out. So I blinked, and when I did, the figure was standing next to my bed. It looked like the silhouette of a woman, and she was looking at my fiance that was next to me. I started freaking out. And then the figure touched my fiance's shoulder, and I could see her life leave her. She went visibly limp. I started wigging out and reaching to grab the figure and grab what I can only imagine was a boob and squeezed as hard as I could. While yelling, I woke up into that yelling becoming real. I checked to see if my fiance was still alive, and she was. She was. I was so relieved. And when she woke up to ask me what was wrong, I told her about the dream, and she had that dream too. And it felt weird and unnatural, like something was watching her sleep. We didn't get back to sleep that night, and we left that place as soon as possibly as we could. 'Twas quite the fright. Let's look at some of the comments from people. Faye Has Cat's Hand says, dude, you can't just touch a ghost's boobs without consent. Oh, a funny one. Next, Chop the Salad 32 responds, I know, it was weird, squishy, not a good one. 0 out of 10, would not recommend. Cold, clammy ghost boobs, says Faye Cat Hands. Oh my gosh, these comments are hilarious. Like, they're really focusing on the boobs here. Because the ghost is a grandma, said Spermwell. Josh _ Donnet says, sounds like sleep paralysis, except for the moving part. Yeah, that's the opposite of sleep paralysis. You cannot move in sleep paralysis. Hint the name paralysis. I'm Lumpy says, I'm thinking it sounds more like a night terror. Ruji says, some people during sleep paralysis swear that they are moving. For example, when I had sleep paralysis, I could swear I was shaking my now wife awake with all my might with the arm that was closer to her and that she wasn't responding. She had been awake at that moment and I was having a night terror, and she felt me twitch a little against her back but thought nothing of it. Damn. So maybe it was a night terror. Like, your mind is a spectacular thing. It can really recreate anything for you. One deleted commenter said, I think it's a nice looking apartment other than the ugly washroom. Oh, I don't see no pictures, y'all. I just don't. They might have been deleted. I don't see no pictures here. But that's the story for this one. Hey guys, our next story is from Imperial Leather. Posted this story before, so here it goes. I was 11-ish. Fell asleep watching Star Trek Next Generation, a classic. About 1 a.m., I feel the weight on the end of my bed as if someone is sitting on it. It's my nanny, who's been dead for about 3 years. Oh, that's a big twist. You're going to hear and see something in the next few minutes. It's going to scare you, but you'll be okay, she says while patting my leg. But I need to pee. Oh, that's hilarious. He said that. Okay, but don't be scared. I fumbled my way out into the landing. The window of the front door gets smashed by a small hand hatchet. Are we retelling a horror story? Ooh. An arm starts coming through the door, trying to open the old twisty lock on the door frame. Thanks to the wire that was in the glass, the window doesn't fully smash. But the guy was still trying to get in. He kept attacking the glass with the hatchet and kicking the door. Next thing I hear is my man screeching at him from the top window, asking, what the F is he doing? He's here to get her son who just slashed his tires. She doesn't have a son. He calls her a liar. She says, come in and I'll show you. That's what he's trying to do, he replies. More curses are exchanged before he decides to smash up the front windows before leaving. Police arrive 4 hours later and can't get DNA from the blood smeared all over the window because it'll be a nightmare paperwork. Fucking police, I swear. Turns out he attacked our house due to my dickhead next door neighbor ducking into his garden when he was being chased. Our tree made it look like he ran into our house. Mom was more freaked out by the fact I seen and spoken to my nanny than by the axe wielding fucktard trying to gain entry into the house. Oh, we really should listen to the comments here, guys. Hayuka Lass said, Ghost Grandma, sup? Watch out for some crazy shit soon. OP. What? Grandma, I got a pedo. Grandma, oh well. LOL, have fun. Window smashes. OP. Welp, I don't have to pee anymore. Thanks, Grandma. For some reason, this is the way I envisioned that transaction. Morgini said, what? It took them 4 hours? We're talking about the police guys. When scary shit happened, they don't want to be there when scary shit happens either. Detective Murph said, rural areas, probably asleep and or located far. That's true. Imperial Leather. Back in the 90s, the Irish police were ridiculously slow. Apparently, an axe man was not a priority. Again, it's the police. They scared too. They're humans. Because if I got a call and it said that an axe murderer was trying to get into someone's house, I'm going to take my time too. I'm sorry. Imperial Leather says, I guess it wasn't really a common occurrence then. They probably thought it was nothing. They showed up like police from the Ted Bundy episode, I guess. So I guess that's what they're trying to say. Some of these comments are badly portrayed, but there are some of the comments, guys. See you at the next story. Hi, guys. Kristen again. Our next story is by Happier Jack. This is a story about a dog, I'm assuming. I have an old dog named Casey. When she was a puppy and younger, she would climb the stairs and lay on a particular step. I think it was like the 3rd or 4th step from the top. She would stick her head between the gap of the steps and the bottom railing of the banister and look over the living room. She would stay up there for hours and sometimes would fall asleep with her head sticking out. My mom works at the local high school and every summer is required to take safety courses at the school. One year, one of these courses, she ended up going out to lunch with several people. One of them she didn't know and began talking to. Eventually, my mom mentioned the town we lived in. This other woman grew up in the same town. She asked my mom what section she lived in, and my mom said my section's name. Turns out she lived in that section as a girl. Then she asked my mom what street, and lo and behold, this woman grew up on our street. Then it turns out this woman grew up in the house we live in. So they get to talking more, and my mom mentions that we have a dog named Casey. This woman says that she also had a dog named Casey. Then goes on to say that her Casey would sit on the same step that our Casey would do and poke her head from the steps. It's not creepy to me, but one hell of a freaking coincidence. If not a little supernatural. Yeah, this is kind of creepy. Let's look at some of the comments, though. Pointy Ointment. These names are getting hilarious. I thought you were going to say that your mom learned from the safety course that she shouldn't let the dog lie on the stairs where she could be tripped over. Oh, we got a hilarious person. Another commenter, sir, says, and their name is Dewey Meg, I was kind of braced for someone to trip over the dog and for it to end up beheaded from the railing. I'm not going to lie. I was too here. Like, I was waiting for the dog to be decapitated. That tells a lot about society. Next commenter was, oh my God, the fact that my dog was named Casey as well. Hashtag miss her. That's from Stag Friend or Stan Friend. You know, some of these names are impronounceable, so you got to try. Sparky Kun said, was it the same dog breed? Happier Jack says it was not the same breed. Mashed Potato says, wholesome hauntings. It wasn't a haunting either, Mashed Potatoes, but okay. And Rio FL25 says, the other possibility is the lady had a mental health issue and was a compulsive liar or humoring your mom just to go along with whatever your mom was saying. Get ready for the downvote. Nobody downvoted this though. Happier Jack says she said the whole step thing before my mom mentioned it. She also said the last name of the people who owned the house previously and knew about things like how there's a monkey buried in the backyard because her dad had it as a pet. Wow. Talk about privilege. But yeah, that's pretty much the comments for this one. On to the next story, guys. Our next story is a bit long, but I think you guys are worth it. This story comes from Eboko. Over the years, I lived in 2 houses that were almost certainly haunted. The incident that scared me the most happened in the house I lived in just a few years ago. I had grown up in a house that was renowned for the activity, and the thought of ghosts doesn't really scare me. After all, they're only people, right? Right? People that you can't touch. I'm just saying, they're people you can't touch. So that's a bit different. You can touch people, you can't touch ghosts. Except for that one guy that touched the ghost boob. Yeah, ghost boob. Forgot about ghost boob. This house had a history of strange occurrences. Lights that turn off and on by themselves. Footsteps and voices that couldn't be explained. Extremely rural and no neighbors close by. Banging sounds from the basement, and most disconcertingly, the sensation of being poked, either during the night when you're sleeping or whenever you were in the basement. Stay within the basement, guys. But all of that seemed benign. So whatever. I was interested in communicating with whatever was there and had gathered a couple interesting EVPs. And if you guys don't know what an EVP is, it is an electronic voice recording device. Something along that line. Recording devices records ghosts' voices. You see it on paranormal videos, okay? Just as a close-up. So let's go back to the story. I really wanted to set up a video camera, but didn't have the money to invest instead. I got a digital voice recorder and reasoned that I would record the activity on it until I could afford what I wanted. I decided to set it up to record overnight. Now, there are 2 things that are important to the story. Bear with me, this is important. The first is that the house was built as one-room house originally. Over the years, they added a kitchen, a bedroom, and a full bedroom, a laundry room, and then an addition containing a second bedroom, half bath, and a new kitchen. The old kitchen became a formal dining room. The point being that the house was built haphazardly, and sound doesn't carry from one end to the other. The second point is that I have an alarm clock with a built-in spa sound machine that I use to listen to rain features sounds. And since I'm a little hard of hearing, the rain is always cranked up to maximum volume. Oh yeah, gotta listen to them rains. So I tucked my elderly dog into her kennel that night, and I set up the recorder just between the dining room and the laundry room, as far across the house from our bedroom as possible. I took the 2 younger dogs and cats into the bedroom with my husband and I and went to bed. The next day, I began to listen to every minute of the recording, hoping there would be something of a form of communication. It took a couple of days. The recording starts with a loud chattering as I place it on the table. Then it can be heard me walking away from it, and from the laundry room telling my dog, "Good night, Bonita." That's an interesting name for a dog. Then I passed by again and can be heard moving away. My husband and I can be heard, but not well enough to what we were saying. Talking for a couple of minutes, and then it's sound of the rain machine sounding like a waterfall. After a few seconds, the sounds become a muted roaring sound as we shut our bedroom door. The timestamp shows around 10:15 p.m. And then there is nothing but a muted sound of the rain until about 2 a.m. Then you hear the sounds of dog nails clicking on the hard floor of the kennel. Sounds like her scratching against the floor, whimpering, panting, more clicking, This goes on for about 5 minutes. Then we hear her whimpering, grows more distressed. Her panting becomes panic, as if she's hyperventilating. Then she stops. It's quiet for a moment, then a small bark. It's sound I recognize because she does it every morning as I walk through the kitchen to make coffee. It's her. Hey, you're up! Let me out, Bart! I check the timestamp, 2:18 a.m. And then I hear it. In a staged whisper, frighteningly close to the recorder. Bonita. The dog yelps and begins to scream and almost drowns out the giggle. The giggle is the same voice that whimpers my dog's name. My voice. I'm waiting for her husband when he gets home. I play the recording and he shrugs. So you fussed at the dog? I didn't get up that night. Okay, well we know you sleepwalk. That was that, right? I shook my head. No, listen to it from the beginning. The bedroom door never opens. My husband took the recorder down into the basement and I assumed that he listened to the whole thing from the beginning, and there was one more after the first whisper. The dog's name is Whisper, shouted several more times. Each time the dog would panic and the voice would giggle. After about 20 minutes, it stopped and the dog eventually quieted it. And I assume it went back to sleep. There's more, guys. I listened to the tape all the way through just to be sure. At no time can you hear a change in the muted sound of the rain machine until we get up at 6 a.m., which means that our bedroom door never opened. Which means that whatever was on that recording was not me, but pretending to be me. I got rid of the recorder. I didn't want to ever hear that again. It scared me worse than anything else at that point. I never tried to record anything else in that house. I pretended that it never happened and never heard anything else that sounded like me. Edit. To everyone's worry about Bonita. She slept in a kennel because she was prone to not safe things like chewing on power cords, even though she was 13 at this time. And in another room, she had become very aggressive to our other animals after her playmate had died suddenly. Should we blame that on Bonita at this point? After the tape incident, she did sleep in the room with us. Although still in her kennel, she's now 17, perfectly healthy, but starting to suffer from dementia. We also moved out of the house less than 3 months later. Edit 2. Pica is what it's called. Bonita's desire to eat things that aren't edible is called pica. She is known to intentionally knock polyresin and porcelain figures off the shelves so she can break off pieces of them and eat them. Oh, that sounds dangerous. Edit 3. I added some stories from both of these houses in the replies below if you're interested. Ooh, let's check out the replies. It was a long story, but we're going to check them out. Let's see some of her stories. I'm not seeing them. I feel scammed now. So very scammed because there are no other stories. No other stories. None. So let's look at some of the comments, guys. So yeah, I always let my animals sleep in the same room as me. I don't single anyone out because I wouldn't want to be sleeping alone in a room. Hey guys, one of the animals did die, and granted, she didn't give us a timeline, but we can't all assume that dog did it. I did, and I also felt really bad wondering how many times it happened without us knowing. Nanny, that was from OP. Nanny OG Squad. I just read your edit. Sorry if I sound judgmental. You know what's best for your doggo, especially if she's chewing on wires. Yeah. Karen. Back it up, Karen. Back it on up. And 2 more replies. It's no big deal. I never did it except with puppies until Bonita. And now our elder teacup Chihuahua as well, to make sure the larger dogs don't accidentally hurt her. No worries, just wanted everyone to know there was a good reason. Yeah, eating wires and glass is a good reason. Lock that dog down so you can have him around forever. That's all I'm saying. And still looking for stories from... Oh, here goes another story. Okay, so bonus story, guys. Here goes our bonus story from A. Boko. She is a reader from the terrifying story of the dog that got called out by an owner who was not calling its name. Ooh, scary. So let's look at their next story. Since there's interest, here's some stories from both of the houses. I'll start with the most recent one. We moved in knowing that the previous owner's husband and wife had died in the house, years apart. It didn't bother us, and we didn't honestly expect anything. It was about 4 months before we started getting activity. And with the exception of the recording mentioned above, it was pretty benign. Also, the house was only about 1,200 square feet, with a basement whose door remained not only locked but barred. We also had 4 dogs at the time that were avid barkers, 3 barks for anyone they recognized, and endless barking for anyone they didn't. The back door was original to the house, 1910 or so, give or take. It had a skeleton key lock. We only had 1 key, so we kept it in a lock for fear of losing it. The door didn't shut well, and I had to put my knee against it and press with all my might to get it far enough for the lock to engage, I mean. We would wake up each morning to find the door unlocked and wide open. Then one day, my husband and I came from working unusually late and had to rush the dogs outside before accidents occurred. We split up and took the oldest dog out the front door, while he took the 2 Chihuahuas out the back door. As I stepped back in with the dog, I heard the sound of a skeleton lock engaging, and assuming that my husband was back in the house too, and instead he came through the back door a moment later with the Chihuahuas, wanting to know why I had locked him out. We started leaving the key on the shelf after that and had no more issues with the door. When you sat on the couch, you could look to the right through the dining room and down the short hall. To the left and out the sight at that hall was a bathroom. If the bathroom light was on, it would light up the entire hallway and part of the dining room. The light would turn on and off by itself. We had to place a test by an electrician before we bought the house again after a year. There was nothing wrong with the wiring. We started just yelling, "Turn the light off, please," and it would go off. Oh, that's spooky. We would all, me, my husband, and the overnight guests, including my son and daughter-in-law, experience the sensation of being poked during the night. It was a little unnerving, but it gave you the impression of a child that was trying to get your attention. It also happened in the basement at all times. I once went down into the basement to find my husband listening to headphones and working on something with his back to me, and I tapped his soldier and got no response. I tapped again and nothing. I tapped the 3rd time and he spun around with his first drawback. When I asked you what's wrong, he responded, "Whatever it is down here, it has been poking me for the last hour." Ooh, that's scary. That's why he was ignoring her. Okay, caught up. We would hear the sounds like someone hammering nails in the basement at night. You would hear someone running up the basement stairs, stopping, and then slowly walking back down. There was never anyone down there and no outside entrance. The most blatant experience was the time I saw what I believed was the spirit of a woman who had lived there. One of my coworkers and I used to carpool to save gas, and this time it was my turn to drive. Since she lived down the road, she would drive to my house. It was winter, December, I think. And I had to start the car to let it warm up. I came back in the house and did my final check that all the animals were okay. The doors were locked with everything off. I finished up the laundry room and I was still in the dark. I had the floodlight on for my friend and the door open looking out through the storm door. I also had the overhead light on, but I realized I couldn't see anything outside because of the glare. I stepped forward, turned off the light, and there, reflected behind me, was a woman. I'm 5'3", so I would say she was around 5'8". She was a little stocky and had hair that curled away from her face. She was wearing something like a house coat, a light color, maybe blue. Her face wasn't visible. It was just shadowy. She didn't move for a couple of seconds that took for me to react. When I turned around, there was nothing there. My husband and I tried multiple times to recreate the reflection of her shadow that I could have mistaken for a person. But one thing that you could see when you took a look at the door is a plain wall behind you. There was nothing to cause a reflection at all. Commodore Hunky Fluxmonks said, as soon as I read Bonita, I felt to chill. Recordings like these are always creepy. It might be a squatter that impersonates you because she thinks your dog will bark, alerting you and your husband of their presence. Oh, that's a smart take on that. So yeah, those are our stories today. You guys have a wonderful day, and thank you for listening to Weird Reddit. Should you have any comments, please leave them. I do apologize for the errors in the video, but I am doing my best here, guys. And these stories are long, and I am getting better as I go. And at least it's not an AI, y'all. So I hope you enjoyed these videos, and please hit the like button, the share button, and slap that subscribe button, guys. Y'all have a wonderful, beautiful day.